Good day everyone, I am Phoenix together with my groupmates Lee, Chloe, and Lloyd to discuss about the ethical considerations in media reporting when it comes to unwanted pregnancies and abortion from a documentary of CNA Insider, The Unseen Cause of Philippines Pandemic Baby Boom. Abortion has long been banned in the Philippines owing to the fact that the majority of its citizens are Catholic, where abortion is considered an ethical issue that undermines Catholicism. It is intimately linked to unwanted pregnancies, making it one of the many reasons why women would desire to get abortions. In a documentary by CNA Insider, people who seek abortion are discreet in order to avoid legal repercussions. Because of this, it is difficult to measure the number of abortions in the Philippines despite the availability of estimates, as abortion is highly stigmatized and penalized by law. A sentence of 6 years in prison is the verdict for those women who are discovered to resort to abortion along with the healthcare providers, as they face serious penalties in criminal prosecution. However, women still risk their health and lives because they have no other choice. One thing for sure is that these circumstances would not end today or tomorrow. Thus, women will continue to bear the consequences of abortion in the future. Going back to the documentary, the rise of unwanted pregnancies among adults and minors during the pandemic has caused not just the baby boom but also the abortion business to rise once again. Despite poverty, people who live in the most impoverished slums of the country are found to have given birth without family planning. An example of this is the story of a 33-year-old woman named Hershey Gonzalez who had a family of 10 members, including her husband and 8 children. After giving birth to her eighth child, they finally came to realize that their livelihood is difficult and that they should stop giving birth to another. Hence, she started taking contraceptive pills, of which 28 pieces per pack cost twice as much as what her husband Leonardo earns in a day. But fortunately, the barangay health workers have been providing Hershey with 3 boxes of contraceptives every 3 months. But as Manila became a ghost town as a result of the lockdown that lasted from 2020 to 2022, people were compelled to stay at home to control the spread of the virus. Due to reduced alternatives to transportation and company shutdowns, people are no longer able to receive family planning services or the regular supply of contraceptives, which has a severe impact on all family planning services.
The ethical issues or dilemmas faced in reporting the documentary was the potential reinforcement of gender stereotypes, portraying women as solely responsible for family planning and the consequences of unintended pregnancies. This perspective can undermine the shared responsibility that men also hold in reproductive health and family planning decisions. Furthermore, focusing predominantly on women's experiences might accidentally perpetuate the notion that contraception and the repercussions are issues primarily for women to manage. This ethical dilemma was not fully resolved in the reporting. Hence, the documentary highlighted women's struggles and coping mechanisms during the pandemic but did not equally emphasize men's roles or responsibilities in these situations. This one sided representation could influence public perception to gender biases, and by not resolving this ethical issue, it may reinforce the belief that reproductive health and family planning are exclusively women's issues, overlooking the need for a more inclusive dialogue that involves both men and women equally. In summary, while the documentary shed light on critical issues related to unintended pregnancies and access to contraception during the pandemic, it missed an opportunity to challenge and broaden the narrative around shared reproductive responsibilities.
Seeing as the reporting of the issue of unwanted pregnancies and abortion has first implied stereotypical gender roles, contrastingly, ethical considerations such as voluntary participation and respect for participants were upheld throughout the reporting process. For instance, when Hershey was offered an intrauterine device or IUD to replace the contraceptive pills she was unable to take, when she declined, the social worker respected her decisions. Others who prefer not to identify themselves are likewise protected with anonymity during the interview process. As the interviewers allowed cameras to film their homes and places of employment, their setup further demonstrates that there is informed consent.
The presence of these ethical considerations emphasize the significance of ensuring the protection of individual rights and recognizing each one as the primary decision maker in matters that involve them, especially their body and their health, as well as their information and privacy. In the case of Hershey, her well informed stance allowed her to make use of her autonomy, demonstrating that she was able to make an informed decision as she had a well thought process. This prevented her from being manipulated into participating in activities that could potentially cause her harm. Moreover, the respectful approach of the social worker might have helped Hershey establish trust with healthcare providers. In the last part of the documentary, Hershey herself said that she is planning to continue to take her contraceptives and is even considering taking an IUD, which at first she refused to take because of the risk that it imposes. This trust also resonated with the other participants interviewed in the documentary. The cultivation of respect for the autonomy of the participants has led to a more effective data and overall confidence of the document.
The documentary may have faltered in ensuring the accuracy and truthfulness of the information presented. In a rush to produce content that highlights the urgency of the pandemic baby boom, the producers might have overlooked detailed fact checking processes. This could result in disseminating information that lacks credibility or is based on outdated data, thereby misleading the audience. For instance, claims about the extent of the baby boom might be based on anecdotal evidence or outdated statistics rather than robust, recent data from credible sources. Additionally, statements made during interviews with experts or affected individuals might not have been thoroughly verified or contextualized, leading to potential misrepresentation of the severity or specifics of the issue. The documentary might also have lacked impartiality by not presenting multiple perspectives on the issue, such as efforts by the government and successful interventions by NGO. The focus on dramatic storytelling to capture audience attention can result in an unbalanced portrayal, where negative aspects are emphasized at the expense of positive developments. This approach can create a skewed understanding of the situation. The documentary might heavily emphasize the challenges and negative outcomes without adequately covering successful interventions and efforts by policymakers, healthcare professionals, or community leaders to address the problem. This imbalance can lead to an incomplete and potentially misleading narrative. Potential conflicts of interest or lack of editorial independence might compromise the documentary's objectivity. Financial or political pressures from sponsors, advertisers, or political entities can influence the narrative, resulting in biased reporting that serves the interests of these external parties rather than presenting an objective view of the situation. For example, the segments of the documentary might align closely with the interest of sponsors or donors potentially pushing a particular political agenda. This can be evident if the documentary avoids criticizing entities or policies that might be responsible for the issues it highlights, or if it lacks critical viewpoints or opposing opinions, suggesting that the narrative was shaped to avoid offending stakeholders with vested interest in the content. The documentary might not have fully considered the potential harm to its subjects and their communities, especially in how it portrays their struggles and living conditions. To evoke sympathy and highlight the severity of the issue, the documentary might overemphasize distressing elements without considering the impact on the subject's dignity and well being. Graphic depictions of poverty and hardship without appropriate context or follow up on the subject's current situation can sensationalize their plight and contribute to a narrative of hopelessness, affecting their dignity and potentially exacerbating their situation. Moreover, emotional exploitation of participant stories without providing support or follow up care can cause further harm, particularly if the subjects are left to deal with the aftermath after sharing their traumatic experiences publicly without adequate support.
Moreover, the report seemingly exploits the dire situations of these women for dramatic effect, capitalizing on their hardships without providing sufficient support or advocacy for their plights. Detailed descriptions and footage of legal abortion practices, along with the depiction of Hershey's and Mary's family struggles, emphasize the extreme measures women take when left with no alternatives. This approach risks perpetuating gender stereotypes by focusing intensely on women's responsibilities and reproductive health while ignoring the roles men play. Ethical reporting should avoid exploiting vulnerable subjects and instead strive to provide a balanced narrative that advocates for support and solutions for those in need. Lastly, the report's graphic nature, particularly the portrayal of illegal abortions and baby selling, may be seen as lacking sensitivity towards the individual's experiences and circumstances, thus failing to respect their dignity and humanity. Explicit details of illegal abortion procedures can be perceived as dehumanizing. Ethical reporting should ensure sensitivity and respect in presenting such issues, focusing on the humanity of the subjects and the complexities of their situations rather than on sensationalism.
The failure to adhere to ethical considerations in reporting, such as accuracy and truthfulness, fairness and balance, independence and objectivity, minimizing harm, non exploitation, sensitivity, and respect, can have significant negative effects on various stakeholders. For instance, disregarding accuracy and truthfulness by not fact checking information can lead to the dissemination of misleading or outdated data, ultimately eroding the audience's trust and potentially causing harm by spreading misinformation. The report's reliance on dramatic storytelling without presenting multiple perspectives or emphasizing successful interventions can result in an unbalanced portrayal that distorts the severity of the issue and perpetuates negative stereotypes. This lack of fairness and balance can misinform the audience and hinder constructive dialogue and policy making.
Moreover, the report's failure to minimize harm and avoid exploitation can have profound consequences for its subjects, such as vulnerable women seeking abortion services. Sensationalizing their experiences without considering the potential harm or providing adequate support can further stigmatize and marginalize them, aggravating their struggles and harmful stereotypes to them. In summary, the disregard for ethical considerations in reporting can undermine the credibility of the information presented, distort the understanding of the issue, harm the subjects involved, and perpetuate harmful narratives and stereotypes, which ultimately impedes progress towards addressing the underlying challenges and finding effective solutions.
The documentary has paved the way for further awareness and analysis of the issue of the increased number of unwanted pregnancies in the country. However, it falls short in various aspects, such as representing the perspectives of men, thereby perpetuating gender norms. The focus of the documentary was solely on women's struggles with bodily autonomy, as well as the weight that they carry in the decision making regarding abortion and the illegal adoption of their own children, neglecting the role of men in these situations. Many viewers also echo the same sentiment. As a matter of fact, a number of comments emphasize the importance of shared responsibility for birth control between men and women. The lack of perspective of men may signal that women should be more responsible with their bodies, when in fact, men should also hold the same standard of responsibility. In addition to this, possible catalysts for this issue, such as sexual abuse, remain unaddressed, pointing out the need for the improvement of research into future discussions and documentaries regarding this topic.